Good to see everybody tonight. Everybody's all friendly and you're all talking to each other. That's good. We're all friends in here. I have a word of prayer, so if we could stand together. Jesus, we thank you, Lord. We come in your mighty name. We come in your mighty name and we thank you. Lord, we could be here tonight. We can study the Constitution. We can, Lord, know and learn about these things that are so dear to us because they're our freedoms that you've given to us, Lord. They're God-given, and we thank you for them. We ask you to bless this night, bless each and every person here, and Lord, help us to just glorify you tonight, and thank you, Lord, for the freedom that you've given us. For we ask this all in Jesus' mighty name. Amen and amen. Let's remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll just ask Lyle to come up, say hi, and what's on his heart, and leave the garbage can. Good evening, everybody.
This is quite a gathering here this morning, for this evening. I've been watching things that are happening on Facebook and all of the comments and things that are being said. It's incredible getting going here. This is amazing.
Thank you, Lord.
And when Pastor Sisti talked to me the other day, he said, "So what's the topic?" And I knew what I thought it should be, because of a recent thing that happened. And I said, "Well, what's your idea?" And he said, "I think we ought to have Troy McEwen talk." And I said, "That's exactly what I was thinking, like minds, as a result of what happened in Cheyenne." Was it last week or the week before?
October 26th.
October 26th, okay. And he said, "What shall the title of it be?" And I said, "Dare to be moral." Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams.
Amen.
And that's where we're going. We're getting a movement started here that's going out, and we're making a difference, people. We're making a difference. So your efforts are working. Congratulations. I like this. We all like this. So keep it up. We are being noticed. Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters, says Benjamin Franklin. What do we have right now in this country? We have masters.
Tyrants.
Tyrants, masters. Our Constitution was put together for the people, by the people. And it's backwards now. It's government down. It's not individual up. We still have the same Constitution, but we have, I would say, bad thinking in this. We have people that want to be tyrants or masters. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate.
Oh, amen.
You're participating. That's who is going to run this country, those that are participating. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for men of good conscience to remain silent. Thomas Jefferson. Mm-hmm. And with that, I'm going to give the microphone to Troy.
Y'all might find this hard to believe, but I did not win Mr. Congeniality the last session.
Revote.
I want to start out with how it all started, and there's some key things I want you to know. There were probably 15 to 20 very good bills that a lot of people worked very hard on to bring down there. And as we started to bring them out, I'm going to quote Tom James, Senator Tom James, because he said it best. There's another senator who has a 67% voting record. I won't use his name. Got up and said, "We heard bills that the body decided on. So if we didn't hear your bill, it's because the body decided not to hear the bill. It was voted down." And while there's some truth to that, it's also selling used cars. Senator James posted today, they had a plan from the very beginning, and his exact words were, the leadership and their pets sabotaged it all from the very beginning. We spent 8 days. 8 days. And this is what we produced. 90 people, 8 days, and they wonder why I'm posting stuff like that. We have high school kids in Laramie, Wyoming, Grace, being arrested for not wearing a mask. And then you've got senators who actually stand up on the floor, and I couldn't believe I heard it. She didn't get arrested for not wearing a mask. She got arrested for trespassing.
At the road school?
Oh, that's much better. So we go through this, and this is, I'm trying to think of nice words, but this is garbage. This has all kinds of fluffy words in it. It's got a nice title, Federal COVID Vaccine Mandates, Prohibition, and Remedies. And it goes in there and it says what we're going to do. And it starts out real good. But then you get to the point where it says, we're not actually going to enact anything until we're done with litigation. So we got people all over the state losing their jobs. And the best thing we could come up with is once we're done suing the federal government, then we're going to enact some of the stuff in this bill. And oh, by the way, once we exhaust all that, we're going to go to the supremacy clause and still follow the federal government. So what we basically did was give the governor's office $4 million to fight a federal lawsuit. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think $4 million would get you through a state Supreme Court lawsuit, let alone fight the federal government. So that's what we did. And then, after the bill got passed, the House and the Senate can't get along, so it goes to Joint Conference Committee. And at that point in time, because we don't want to make the governor mad, we cut it down even more, made it less ineffective. So what we did for 8 days was watch leadership mess more things up than you could imagine. We had a former Speaker of the House on a hot mic using some very, very nasty names, violating decorum, but he's one of the good guys. So he comes in and apologizes, and it's all wonderful. He can't use Zoom anymore. And then I show up Monday morning, and I can't make this up. The Wyoming Highway Patrol presence had doubled because senators were afraid I was coming to bayonet them. So this started, and I talked about the woodshed. I spent a lot of time in the woodshed. We were negotiating. Kind of started out like this. Would you please just get up and tell everybody you didn't mean them any harm? And I said, yeah, if I can explain the post. So that sat around for a while, and then they came back and they said, LSO doesn't think that's a good idea. They think you're trying to use your military background to get out of something. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to have to think about this one now. Back to the woodshed. Really what we needed to do is an apology. And I looked at him and I said, "Do you realize who you're talking to? I am not going to apologize. I stand behind it." So he's like, "Are you still willing to get up and explain you had no ill intent?" Yeah, I think I could do that. So then I walked by our break room where we have coffee, and there's 4 of them in there cackling about what damage they're going to do to Senator McEwen. Giggling, having fun. One of them, leading the charge, was a Democrat. So I went back and talked to the President of the Senate, and I said, "You know what? I'm not even going to do that now." And he looked at me and he said, "You really want this vote to go through?" I said, "I don't care if the vote goes through. You have to do what you have to do." And he said, "I'll have to vote against you if you don't explain the intent and apologize." And I said, "I can understand that. I'm a big boy. And I made the post, and I'll stand by my consequences." And then I went home that night, and I was a little nervous. I'm not lying to you. It was getting a little grim. So I talked to my good friend, Representative John Baird, who said that post was nothing. And then reminded me, just get down on your knees tonight, and it'll work out. So John and Chip and some other people from the House showed up that morning to support, show me support. In the meantime, all my real good friends back here in Gillette decided they're going to write a newspaper article. And Tom Lovenow, bless his soul. Yeah. He gets into big attacks. And here's where I owe a lot of people in this room thank you, and the town, because it absolutely blew up in their faces. There was no comments, "Oh, let's go string Troy from a tree." There were comments of, "Tom, let's look at your family's background." It was brutal. So the next post I put up was, "We spent 8 days and we gave you a big fat nothing burger with a side of lies." So that got pretty rough. Now there was some good news though that came out of this. And we did move the ball forward a little. First of all, we put a light on the cockroaches in the Senate and watched them run like crazy. And then there were 6 of us, maybe 7 now, conservative senators that decided we weren't doing enough as a team, and we're starting to form a caucus. Maybe we can get John Baird to organize it and run the meetings. But for the first time, 7 of us voted together very conservatively. We'd always kind of been doing that. But everything they brought up, we all got up and spoke. Bull Beitman said some great things about, "I don't want the school district raising my children. That's my job." I got into an argument with him. "Your parental rights end with your child and don't begin with mine." And we had some real good constitutional discussions. And we have one guy in the group, he's sometimes difficult to get along with, but he's an absolute pit bull. And he's just tearing Facebook up right now. But my thought was, I told y'all when I went down there, I would be fearless. And I'm going to continue to be fearless. Some of the bills we did not even listen to. One of them allowed doctors to prescribe whatever they wanted. Hydroxychloroquine, road apples, whatever they thought was effective. One of the senators down there, and if you're on Facebook at all, you're going to see this too. His wife was saved early from COVID with hydroxychloroquine. And then when he was asked about it, he wasn't sure what she was cured with. So you gotta question this one. Hey dear, take this stuff. I don't know what it is. or is he kind of hiding something? And the guy that he's going after the hardest was the one that got him in touch with the doctor that provided it, and they got it out of spearfish. So I guess it's okay not to like somebody, but if they help you at that level, you should at least be thankful. It should count for something. So I think as we see the upcoming elections, it's going to be a wild ride. I think John and his guys are putting their slate together, and we're putting ours together. And I think we got some pretty good candidates coming up. And I sure know we got a whole lot of fodder to attack them with. But at the end of the day, we didn't pass that bill. There was a bill in there that I'm quite fond of, maybe because I wrote it. It was a very simple bill. It said school boards and school districts cannot mandate masks or vaccines. I will take that bill and Senate File 80 that I wrote last time, and we will retool that, and we'll try to bring it out in February. It'll be a little bit of a challenge because it's a budget session, but I think they'll hear some bills too. There were some good bills on discrimination. Tom James wrote a bill that I thought was spot on. He left all the small businesses out of it. Private businesses do what you want. Government, you don't get to do it. And government entities have become such a blurred item. He found a way to word it such that, let's talk about our hospital. Our hospital takes tax dollars. Therefore, they shouldn't be able to mandate it. And I don't know what they're going to put out now. I read some papers today that by the end of November, if you work at the hospital, you will have to be vaccinated. But then there's a stay on the federal order, and I came here instead of going to the hospital board meeting tonight, so I don't know what they're going to do with that. But at the end of the day, stay after them, please, and just keep watching. It's entertaining at the least. I heard things like, oh, we're going to take all the power away from our school boards. That's like the federal government taking power away from the state. And I'm like, This is a special kind of stupid. The state is sovereign. The state's supposed to control all that stuff. Not the school board. Not the boards of county commissioners throughout the state, which is amazing. I've had the fortune of speaking in other counties. They're different as night and day. Some of the school boards are hugely conservative and don't want masks, don't want vaccines. Some of the school boards can't wait to put your children in a bubble. But at the end of the day, this is one of the things I said on the floor. Do you want the school board and the administration in charge of your children instead of you? Let's discuss some of the decisions they've made. We all know what wrestling is, right? Mm-hmm. So they bring back wrestling, and two young men or women or children go out on a mat, and they take their mask off, and they literally roll around, exchanging snot, spit, blood, sweat. I mean, they wrestle pretty hard. Then the match is over, and the geniuses pull them back up, and they put the same mask back on. No, by the way, most of them wrestle more than once, so they got all that junk in the mask, and they can't shake hands. Football. Wear a mask on the sideline, but when you're out there playing, you can take it off. Once again, if any of you have ever played football, there is some exchange of fluids in that game too. But you can't shake hands afterwards. So we're going to give this brain trust the decision of how to take care of our children? You would think, and I'll just briefly highlight the library, you would think the school boards and everybody would be up in arms. And I'm just going to give you my opinion, and now that we're back, I'll keep going to meetings with you. There's only one way to solve this, and it isn't attacking the library. It's, unfortunately, the county commissioners. And they're feeling a lot of heat, which is good. They've shut down public comment. We don't want to hear what you have to say. We'll tell you what you need to know. And that's kind of what this session was like. There was a whole lot of, and I was really jealous of John Bear. Monday through Wednesday, or Tuesday, he just got to come home. He didn't have to sit in a chair, wait for 12 hours for somebody to do something with this garbage. It was horrible. Anytime the Senate, actually, we pulled something off with our little conservative group. We got an amendment in the Senate file 1003, and we actually had an 80% solution. It wasn't a terrible bill, it wasn't a bad bill. It didn't go all the way, but it went a lot of the ways. It took power away from the school system. It moderated power given to the health officers. And we got those amendments passed. And we're all doing high fives. But the truth of the matter is, we got those amendments passed so the rhinos down there could say they voted for them and then turn around and kill the bill. So if you're voting to put amendments in a bill, think about this. We're voting to make the bill better. And we all vote. It's a better bill. And if you voted on the amendment to make it a better bill, how do you vote it down? how do you say, oh, well, we were just kidding. We don't need this. And he gets me off to, and I don't want to sound like I'm preaching on this, but a lot of us have one or two issues that dwell within our gut and our heart that we think need fixed, amongst all the issues, but I think John's are a little different than mine, Bill's are a little different than mine, and they're just as good. I'm fed up with federal funding. Federal funding is a bribe or extortion from the federal government. I made the mistake of asking my leadership when we weren't on the floor, has anybody ever put a pen to paper, figured out how much federal funding we're getting, and what if we didn't get it, what it would mean? And why couldn't we redirect ARPA funds to the hospitals while we're getting through this, if we lose some Medicare and Medicaid? Because we're confident, well, others are confident, that our AG and the governor will be hugely successful in a lawsuit. But that's going to take years. At the very least 1 year, if they fast track it. And I go back to what I'm saying. November 30th, November 15th, November 5th, on many different partially and fully government subsidized entities, people are going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their jobs. And I'll tell you this, my daughter's one of them. She's a nurse up at the hospital. And, oh, by the way, 8 days ago, she just had my third grandchild. So. But she thinks she wants to have one more. So you read through the side effects of that vaccine, and she's like, Dad, what do I do? I'm like, I guess you start eating a little more ramen. You cut your budget back. But I certainly wouldn't take the jab. And what I don't understand is, as I do research across the globe, other countries are reporting way higher deaths with the same vaccines than we are. We just turn it into something else. When the COVID came out, our first case was literally in Buffalo, Wyoming, and he was in hospice. His body was riddled with cancer. And they found out what the federal funding you get for COVID is. They moved him out of hospice into a hospital, and when he passed, they called it COVID related, and the family actually sued. That was our first case. And then we had the case of the Indians. 4 of them got into a gunfight, and they died of COVID and gunshot wound complications. I mean, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of stories like that all across the nation. But it's time. We have to find different ways and different solutions. We've followed the old guard for so long, and they just do it the way we always did it. And you ask them, what about the 10th Amendment? Well, sometimes in court that doesn't play real well. So we shouldn't try. What happens if we don't fight and use the 10th Amendment? Nothing. What's the worst that can happen if we fight and stand behind the 10th Amendment? The 9th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment. There's a whole slew of amendments. probably about 5 of them that say this is unconstitutional. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? We're gonna spend some of our money, I'd say your money, but I'm getting taxed pretty hard too. And we lose. But I'd sure rather restructure the budget to fight and win that battle than pick roadkill up off the road. We had a bill, and if I'm redundant, I apologize. I don't always remember everything I said. We had a bill, some guy had his way with a horse, if you know what I'm saying. We spent 4 hours discussing whether or not that should be a felony. And I finally had to get up and say, are you kidding? You're worried about getting this guy in jail? Shouldn't we be more worried about getting him some counseling and some help? Because evidently something isn't right. Oh. And then you got another representative who shows up in a costume. And he's threatening to wear a Valentine's Day costume. And that's fine, I guess. It's his First Amendment rights. But it just denigrates what we're trying to do. And the unfairness, one of the lines in that post was, the conservatives in the Senate are done. We're not going to take it anymore. Will we win?
Yes.
I think we will. It's going to be a hard fight, but I think there's some goodness coming. Just like this room tonight. Everybody's here, everybody's paying attention, and everybody's talking. I think we can do it. If I didn't, I would apologize to y'all for running and I'd step down. Because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of work, and we are so very blessed in this county with what we have right now. But we're also, I guess, getting a little greedy. We want some more. We want some more good guys. We want to get rid of some of the rhinos.
Yes. What happens next?
Well, next, we have committee meetings, and we'll start working some bills and try to get them as committee bills so they have a better chance of being heard. And then there'll be a lot of strategy and tactical sessions. And we're going to start identifying good candidates. Those 3 red names, that will be a priority. 22%?
Wow.
Mr. 22% only votes on school-related matters. And that's tax hard, spend hard. We've discussed how overspent our school system is, so I won't get into that. Speaker of the House. Republican Speaker of the House. The guy who people take a lot of cues off of. The guy who sends this thing out called a whip to change the vote or get the vote he wants. 40%. Majority floor leader, 67%. And this is a guy who decides what bills are going to get heard and not get heard in the drawer. Yes, ma'am.
I attended the special session the first day. It was my first experience getting to do that. But I noticed Mr. 67% said the first day, we won't hear any bills that don't pertain to the exact reason why we're here. And then he brought up the gambling bill. And so how did the gambling bill turn out? I didn't get to hear about that.
Oh, that wonderful gambling bill? He stuck that on Senator Ellis. So she brought it up. And then he got up and he said, I guess I should apologize for bringing up something outside the special session and the rules, but this is really important, we need to get it done now.
Yeah.
Well, leadership and their pets, we're trying to get rid of some of the pets too, all voted, yeah, we'll do this now. The backlash on that bill was so great across the state. It was kind of like the shot heard around the world, only in Wyoming. It was so great that the House of Representatives said, we're not going to bring it up. We're not even going to hear it. Or maybe they just decided not to bring it up for the right reasons. But I will tell you, 67%, 22%, 40%, not a lot of right reasons in their thought process. So that it died in the House. And we will see it again in the budget session. It'll probably be the first bill to come out of the drawer. Yes, ma'am.
So a bunch of us that went down there last Tuesday or Tuesday before, what was the feeling about the senators and whatever about all those showing up there? Did it make any difference? Did they like it? Did they hate it? How did that work out?
Huge difference. And by the way, thank you for the nice note. I appreciate it.
I sent one to Mr. 22 also. Oh, I just said no mandate.
No, it was very powerful. And I'm going to tell you, I think 25% at least of the people in that gallery were from Campbell County. So I got lots of nice notes.
Two questions. One, you were talking about what happens now is all the committee meetings. Would you encourage the public to attend those committee meetings?
You can attend that committee meeting in your underwear on your couch.
But don't you think being in person is even better?
Yes. But yeah, it's open to the public, and the more people that show up and testify, it makes them nervous. They don't want people in the gallery. Once again, it's the spotlight on the cockroach.
And my second part is, I heard today that Senator Driscoll is leading the charge coming at you. What can you share even more?
Yes, he is. They weren't real happy when I looked them all in the eye and said, do what you gotta do. I also might have said, I had the backbone and commitment to put that post on there. Do you have the backbone and commitment to follow through with what you're planning? I wanted them to do it. By the next morning, I was calm. That night, I was a little upset. Stomach bothered me a bit, but it didn't matter because it's not about me. It never was about me. And I'm going to promise you I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it never becomes about me. And I would ask you, if it ever does become about me, find somebody else that you can trust.
So what did they do?
What are they going to do and what can we do to help you?
They're not going to do anything.
You know
Because-
that or you just guessing?
Well, okay, this is going to get me in trouble. But Tom Lovenau is not real bright. He was the impetus behind the start. He got the Senate leadership to start talking about censure, admonishment. There were 3 terms thrown around. I had to look them all up. I think the worst thing that could have happened was they would have taken me off committees. But they can't make me be quiet on the floor, and they can't take my vote away unless they get 2/3 vote to expel me. And there were a couple of them trying to do that. So I read the email, and it said, Dan, this is what happens when you try to publicly criticize Senator McEwen, Tom. And then below that was the list of some of the things the Love Now family have done to the community. I don't know the intent behind that. I think he might have thought I was energizing everybody. I barely even knew it was in the paper at that point in time. So I certainly didn't call those people and tell them, attack Tom Love Now. In the online paper, they shut down the thread. 18 posts. And then a few of my really staunch supporters, they just deleted theirs. But the most heartfelt thing on one of the comments on that thread were, Tom, that's why we elected him. We didn't want him to go down there and be you. So I think the opportunity's gone and passed. I think it would cause him a lot more damage to try to bring it up now. And I know this, when I talked to the Senate President as I left, he said, could this just go away? I don't want to deal with it anymore. To which I told him, yes, sir, I'm not trying to keep it alive, but you are the president. You can make it go away.
I'm back on your committee question. That's why I tried to get it in there before we went to question number 2, but you can make public comment via Zoom too from home, which is helpful because the committee meetings might be all over the state. But if you look ahead of time and look at everything they're going to listen to, you can just put your name in and LSO they'll buzz you in and out. So it does help. You can make, I'm shocked at some of the, you'll just listen and then you'll be sad you didn't put your name in there to comment, because you'll be shocked to hear some of the comments on those committee meetings, because the left and some of these other factions and lobbyists are always on there, and it'll just make your hair stand on end to listen to them. So, the more participation, even if it's on the Zoom call for comments, is important.
And say what you want to say.
Yeah.
Tell them what you're thinking. They will try to make you feel dumb if you're not saying what they want to hear. And it is kind of, it's a little frightening.
Why cannot some of these people be indicted for constitutional violations and tried as criminals? And why you heard about that mayor that threatened to send the school board people to prison for child pornography because the horrible books they were giving the third graders? Why can't we get on the stick a little bit?
I think we're working on that. In fact, we pushed litigation, or the county commissioners pushed litigation against the library, or an investigation. Let me be very careful with my words. They weren't necessarily pushing litigation, but they did want it investigated.
Who is this?
All the politicians.
Who is investigating?
Well, Bennett's and you guys.
Yeah, you were part of it.
Oh, well, that.
When they sent it to Weston County,
Yeah, they threw that out.
and immediately in 15 minutes his car got keyed and he was getting threats.
Yeah, that was thrown out. I thought there was a new one.
No, not that I know of.
But whose car got keyed? The attorney?
Yeah,
Weston
the
County.
county attorney.
So is that why he gave it up?
It's, you gotta be fearless or you're not gonna change anything.
Can you tell us, was it Senator Driscoll you went to see in the woodshed?
The president of the Senate,
And who is that?
Senator Doc Stetter.
It's pretty obvious.
And I do want to throw this public comment out. He, in my opinion, was trying to help me and the onslaught. He wanted me to apologize so it would go away. Well, what I found out later was, I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to do, but I think they were going to have me apologize, and then they were going to go after Anthony Bouchard for sharing it. So I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to be okay, and then they're going to use what I did to crucify somebody else that they don't like. And as I thought it all through, it was terrible policy, terrible ideas. And I'm pretty sure Senator Bouchard can get himself into his own trouble. And I do want to take a moment to throw a shout out to Representative Bill Fortner. A couple days before and the night before, John Baer and myself were working on a way to get him there so he could vote. We ended up putting him on an air mattress in a van. He went down there, put him in a wheelchair, wheeled him into the house, and he voted.
Wow.
Had he not done that, he would not have been able to participate or vote in the rest of the session. So,
You guys are an awesome team. I just want to say that.
Yes.
but Bill's kind of a little pit bull too, so we need him down there. I think we're going good places. I really do. I don't think it's as bleak as it looks. I think if we can just hold it together long enough before the whole country collapses, we can come out of this. But it's going to take going to battle against the WEA.
Can you please say your acronyms out instead of just using the initials?
Wyoming Education Association,
Thank you.
the Wyoming Teachers Union, if you will, and the National Education Association. They're all about pushing for more money, and it all ends up in administrators' pockets. We have a hospital, and I can say this because it's in the news. We have a hospital that we fund with 4 mills that cries and screams they don't have enough money. And they say they're 20 million in debt every year. I think last year it was actually 40. Will come out when the investigation's finished. So they fire. They fired her. And then they gave her $650,000 or $675,000.
They gave her a bonus 2 months before.
I need to figure out how that works in the grocery industry. I had a terrible year. Can I get a $62,000 bonus? Yes, ma'am.
I just had a thought, as a fellow teacher, I think growing up you see teachers like Mr. Wasserberger and you think, man, he was a great teacher, I really liked him. Yeah, he was a part of my school, yeah, he was my coach, or, you know, how as citizens, these are our mindsets. So how do we communicate to people, like, just because you liked them doesn't mean you should vote for them? How do you get kids to be more informed voters?
I think you take a look at his background. You can Google most of it. I think you'll find out he's getting paid about $80,000 through Bochis. I always get Bochis and Bocies mixed up. Better.
Your community higher education services, something like that. It's
They-
the higher education that we have. BOCES is just education.
Bocies deals with handicapped and challenged children. Bochis deals with basically the college and some trade school kind of stuff.
So
So we got rid of the BOCES half mill back in '01 to get a rec mill in '01. It was a half mill. They got rid of that and did a half mill for the rec mill in Campbell County, right? So made a nice net zero on that, and then within about 3 years, one. So we get 3 to 4 million for recreation stuff and arts in Campbell County, which they bragged about giving $900,000 out last year. I'm not sure where the other 3 million went. But I mean, I know where it goes, but I'm just making a mean comment. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I like mean comments.
Just go for free.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I was a member of, when I was in Idaho, of the NEA, it was the National Education Association in Idaho, and I went to all those meetings as teachers. I'm telling you, they made a very big point. We are not here for education, we are here to lobby. And they didn't even want to improve the education. They said that every month, they said that, and I thought, what are we doing here?
And I don't know how you define conflict of interest, but Mr. 22% is also a school lobbyist. We had a bill last session that kind of went halfway to cutting the problem with the school system. When we started out, it was about 400 million. And it really didn't affect much of anything. In fact, it had a raise in it for teachers. We were going to take care of teachers in classrooms and get rid of all the administration. Do you know how many high-level executive administrative positions are in this county alone? 39. 39 people.
In one school.
I called Sage Valley Junior High because I wanted to talk to a principal. And she says, which one? And I said, excuse me, how many do you have? One for each grade. Really? And then they have the assistant principal. It boggled my mind.
And then a counselor, and then a couple school nurses, and then they have a clinic they're trying to open up or have opened up. None of this is about reading, writing, or arithmetic. And I do have that packet put together for you. I just got to get it to you. I listened to the school
I'll meet
board.
you in the deli at Dawn's.
I'll make sure I have it there. I listened to the president of the school board, or whatever she is, her title, the grand poobah, stand up and say, Wyoming is not part of Common Core. But according to the Wyoming Education Association and the National Education Association, Wyoming voted in Common Core June 16th, 2012, and it was to get federal funding out of the Obama No Child Left Behind Act. And we've been traveling down that ever since. And if you believe that we're not on Common Core, go do some math with your grade school kids. New math.
Will redistricting affect us for those people who represent?
That's a very good question.
I didn't get a question.
She's asking what the effects of redistricting is going to be.
That depends on 67%, Mr. 67%, right?
In my opinion, I'll be very careful with this, in my opinion, he hasn't been very forthcoming or transparent with what he wants to do with redistricting. He says things like, you all go draw lines and bring it to us, and if it's not really messed up, we'll adopt it. Well, I went to the first meeting and planning session and drank some of John Bear's water asked really dumb questions. But the outcome of it was there were two maps presented, two very good plans. And I think they're not even really being considered. But I say again, my opinion, and if you get a minute, Representative Bear is knee-deep in this right now, so he could probably speak way better or more intelligently than me on the topic. I hope so. I would like to believe that the committee is operating in full faith. But
I heard that it might cut out one of our representatives.
there's a big push to make Weston County whole, as they call it. And if that happens, we might lose a representative or part of a representative. Once again, I hear tale that there is a Driscoll map somewhere. But nobody can see it, or I can't see it. And I've asked. And I get the same, you guys draw lines and we'll accept it. He's got a plan. Him and Speaker of the House Barlow, they have a plan. And we're not supposed to use the word gerrymandering. So we'll have to see the final map. But I suspect it could be less than good for Campbell County. But I don't know. I don't know. And we're running a little late. I graduated from a Wyoming high school, and it was a ways back, if you will. I graduated in '82 out of Cheyenne Central. When I graduated, I'd had physics, I'd had 2 years of chemistry, 2 years of biology. My last math class was Introduction to Calculus. And I thought I was really smart. When I took my ACT score, I got a 29, and that's back when it was hard. And the kid sitting next to me in my physics class has a 34, and the one behind me has a 32. And at that point in time, Wyoming was running neck and neck for first or second in the nation. And the country was first or second in the world. And now we're spending 3 times as much money. And I think we've moved up to 16th in the world. And 19th in the nation. Or around 19th in the world or 16th in the nation. We're in the teens somewhere. And we spend more money per child than almost every other state. But I will tell you, and then I'll close out, here's what they do when they attack the conservatives. Oh, the children, the poor children. And I can say this now because I'm one of them. And the old people. The children and the old people are going to suffer. And that's the first thing they cut. And then they blame it on us as they funnel more money into a broken school system. And as I said earlier, we are facing times now where the people you elect to go down there have to come up with new, creative, different solutions. We have to find money elsewhere other than the federal government. We need to find money other than reaching in your pocket. We don't need to provide you world-class everything. I mean, I got a grade school in my neighborhood by my house. It's bigger and more elaborate than the high school I went to. And my grade school that I went to in Cheyenne, still standing. And it looks like the day I went there. So as we get into all these capital construction projects, I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be time to fight the people who wanna censure me and chop John's foot off and poke Bill in the nose. One last one.
How much money could you save if you got rid of most of those administrators?
And facilitators.
I believe, and I think, not if I'm right, and you agree, John, or shake your head if I'm going down a bad path. I believe we could have a much better school system and cut $1 billion out of each biennium.
Oh, yeah.
Easy. Capital construction. See, they tell you the school budget is 1.4 billion. But what they don't tell you is there's another 300-400 million tossed in there for capital construction. And that's how they kind of funnel money around to key places at key times. I won't go any deeper into that, but I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight, and I hope I helped.
We're going to wrap this up, but we were talking earlier about a moral society and moral people. And this is kind of satirical, but serious in the same fashion. 2 weeks ago, I was in juvenile detention. I do a Bible study in the jail. I asked a 16-year-old, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Well, I read this book from the library. It was talking about how to do certain sexual acts. So I wind up in the yes house, and there's this girl that's 16 years old, and we kind of liked each other, and still do. So he said we kind of got into a touchy-feely situation and got caught. Because the book said it was okay.
That's right, they do.
And we were told that if we got caught again, there would be discipline. But I'm reading this book. So we got caught again, and we were told that if we got caught again, that there would be disciplinary action. So you got caught a third time. He says, "Yeah, but they said I was touching her butt, but I was actually touching her back." But there's this book that I read that said it was okay. So I'm in the juvenile detention because they don't know what to do with me. So I guess it's not okay, huh? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.